Welcome to the latest episode of Dad's Watching Sports, episode 9. Today is Sunday, April the 5th, 2020. It would have looked a lot differently had the coronavirus not impacted the entire world, much less the sports world, as it would be Final Four weekend. But alas, it is not, and we're moving forward. Sunday, April 5th. Again, Dad's Watching Sports, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, if you're a listener to this show, this is a show where we discuss the biggest news in sports, which there's not a whole lot right now. But we're also discussing some of the biggest news in our households as dads, as kids all under the age of 5, and all the fun stuff that goes on with that, especially right now when we're all under quarantine. But thanks so much for being with us. Of course, we also have some special guests along the way. But tonight, it's just the three amigos. No special guests this time, just the three amigos. Michael Draper, Matt Kirk, Kyle Castles, as always. Definitely thank you for joining us. Just a quick plug for some other podcasts I've been a part of in the past week or so. You had Chris Goodwillie, who joined us a couple of weeks ago from the Career Yak podcast. Was able to join him this past week. So if you're listening to us, make sure you go and check out the Career Yak podcast. It's a really cool podcast that has a lot to do with different people in their careers and just all of that kind of stuff. And so definitely check that out. You can find it at Apple Podcasts. Also, had an opportunity to be on the Sideline Take podcast, which was really cool. It was just myself and another individual debating who is the greatest NBA scorer of all time. I went with Kobe Bean Bryant. I know the guys here had a few thoughts on that, and I might get that take before the show's over with. But check out the Sideline Take podcast as well. This Friday in the morning, they'll be dropping that episode. As you know, this is Dad's Watching Sports. Make sure you like us, follow us, subscribe, rate, review. You can check us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, we want you to interact with the show. Check us out on our Gmail account, Dad's Watching Sports at Gmail. On Instagram, Dad's Watching Sports. Facebook, Dad's Watching Sports. And, of course, on Twitter, we're Dad's Watch Sports. So, guys, once again, not to sound like a broken record, but once again, the coronavirus is impacting things left and right. We are now postponed our Major League Baseball season. It looks like the NBA is going to cancel their season altogether, more than likely. So, Kyle, coming to you first, man. I mean, what do we even have to look forward to right now that all this stuff is happening with sports?
This is a crazy time. The lack of sports is actually starting to get to me. We're in baseball season. We're a baseball family, football and baseball, and we should be right now. Me and my wife should be trash talking each other. She's a Dodger fan. I'm a Cubs fan, and as of right now, we're not doing any of that. We need something, and I saw just this morning that the NBA is looking at maybe broadcast a game of horse.
Yeah, so,
sounds like I'm not the only one that's starting to get desperate for some sports.
Yeah, without a doubt. Matt, I mean, what are you guys doing? There's no sports right now, and heaven forbid it goes into the fall and we start talking about college football and basketball. I know you're a big college baseball fan, man. How are you hanging in
there? Man, all I can picture right now is the Razorbacks were supposed to be well primed on their way to a third trip in a row to Omaha. They're going to start calling that place Grandma's house. That's how often they've been going there. But it's been tough. I think I was more disappointed that the Razorbacks were not going to be able to try to make a run in the SEC tournament and possibly get in the big dance. I know that was a long shot, but I think we were about to catch fire at the right time with Isaiah Joe coming back. But in our house, pretty much, I've been playing a franchise or my league on NBA 2K20. I'm playing with the Mavericks, and then I'm also playing in the on the show 20 on PlayStation 4. The baseball game, and I am I'm a second baseman for the Frisco Rough Riders of the Texas Rangers organization. Hoping to move up to the Sounds here soon.
Matt fitting in really well with the Rough Riders there.
Yes. And then we are also watching sports movies here at the house. So yesterday we watched For Love of the Game.
Oh, nice.
And today we watched Ace Ventura.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. You got the Miami Dolphins there. Ray Finkel. Everybody loves a good Finkel. Well, guys,
was Finkel.
That's right. Einhorn is Finkel. guys, we've had the Final Four was supposed to be this weekend. It's gone. WrestleMania, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, is this weekend, but completely different. Obviously, the Masters is postponed. Major League Baseball is postponed. So as your sports fan, I don't know that we started this podcast at the right time because here we are with no sports going on. But Kyle, one thing that you wanted to talk about this week is sports figures stepping up and helping out amongst this crisis. We've kind of seen it across the board, but I wanted to pitch it to you and just give us some thoughts on maybe some guys and people in the sports world that you feel like are really stepping up in this crisis here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a ton of NBA players come out and say that they're gonna help by supplementing or maybe even matching the salary of all those arena workers that are out of a job right now. I saw that Drew Brees gave $5 million of his own money to the city of New Orleans for their relief through all of this. I just think it's great to see these sports figures. I hear people talk all the time about why do sports figures, why do athletes get paid the money they get paid, and these are the same people that can't turn the sports off at any point during the weekend. Like they make the money because you are demanding that they provide you with entertainment. So it's your fault. So quit complaining. But it is great, in my opinion, that you're seeing these guys that do make a lot of money willing to give so much just to take care of the people around them.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that are watching us on Facebook Live, looks like we've got 5 viewers. We appreciate that. I'm sorry the audio was going through my headset and thus not going into Facebook, but I think we got that taken care of now. So we'll go without the mic. Matt, what about you, man? It's really been inspiring to see some of these professional athletes and people involved in professional sports really stepping up to the bar amongst the COVID-19 and really everything that's going on there. Any specifics that are jumping out to you and people that you want to highlight?
Man, I had one. I think that the Drew Brees, his donation was pretty hefty. Like, I think it was I think Kyle said it was $5 million. That's pretty significant. I don't care who you are. That's a ton of money. And the other thing that I've seen is they're doing raffle tickets, and I saw that Steph Curry and Simone Biles made pretty significant contributions into those, which I think is really cool. And then, to me, the biggest thing of all is the gift of life. A lot of athletes that have been tested positive for coronavirus and that have survived it and are kicking it, they're donating blood and plasma, and it's actually being beneficial to people in ICU in hospitals that could be on their deathbed. That these athletes are helping them give them life, and that's actually something that my wife has been talking about doing too, is giving blood to help those out help those people out in need.
Yeah, absolutely.
During this time. So.
Yeah, I'm a person who actually gives on a regular basis. So you can go to the Red Cross's website and sign up. They're desperate for blood donations. So if you're out there and you're thinking about it, definitely go to the Red Cross website. I'm sure it's just like redcross.org and sign up for that. That's a great point, Matt. A couple people I wanted to highlight, obviously Robert Kraft, who it was like over 1 million masks flown in from China on the Patriots personal plane, has disseminated those amongst some of the bigger cities. Then Federer, Messi, and Ronaldo, some international athletes have all donated $1 million towards their cause. And then, some of the NBA owners haven't come up to bat maybe as much as some of the others, but the LA Clippers owner donated $25 million. That's $25 million to the coronavirus epidemic and the outreach and the support for that. So that's pretty darn impressive. I know he's got some kind of shady past there, but to donate $25 million is really impressive. Okay, guys, this is a terrible segue, but we're going to shift gears from talking about something kind of dim and grim like the coronavirus and all of our sports being canceled to kind of going back a little bit to last week. This past week, we celebrated April Fool's Day. Some of us maybe a little bit more than others, but it brought up a cool topic that we could talk about. With it being April Fool's, you normally play tricks on people. And so we thought about what would be some of the top trick plays in sports history. So, Kyle, I'm coming to you. We're going to give our top three. I want you to go 3, 2, and 1 in whatever order we would like to do. Let's try to go 3, 2, 1. But, Kyle, give us your top 3 trickiest plays or trick plays in sports history.
So I'm going to be a bit of a homer, and you'll see why when I get to number 1. So it might give it away. So number 3, Philly special, Super Bowl 52, to beat the Pats. one thing that really, I think is important with trick plays is, my mom will end up listening to this at some point. I'll have to hear about it if I don't say this correctly. You have to have some gall, is the way I'll word it.
Okay, that's
to
fair. We know
call some of
really,
these trick plays. And
we know where you really wanted to go there.
It's called do what?
So we know where you really wanted to go there, but we'll say golf.
You do.
It rhymes with that, but it starts with a B.
Appreciate that, Matt. Philly special, calling it when Peterson did there in the Super Bowl. A lot of gall, lots and lots of balls. And then going back to the 07 Fiesta Bowl, Boise State with the hook and lateral, and then the Statue of Liberty play for the 2-point conversion to win the Fiesta Bowl over Oklahoma. My goodness. I mean, maybe not as much gall as the Philly special because, let's be honest, Boise State shouldn't have ever been in that game. And just the fact that they had a shot at winning, like, why not?
Right.
So that, and then I told you I'm going to be a homer with number one, Super Bowl 44, 10-6, coming out of halftime. Saints, onside kick, get the ball, go down, score, win the Super Bowl, first Super Bowl in franchise history. Drew Brees' only Super Bowl for now. So those are my three.
Matt, what about you? Top 3 trick plays in sports history according to Matt Kirk.
Man, so I'd say at 3, and this is me being a homer. I should put it as number 1, but I'm not because this game was meaningless and was out of hand at the time. But Arkansas, they line up and look what looks like the swinging gate play, and then they did a little audible, and there's a big offensive lineman, Sebastian Tretola, comes back to quarterback, takes a snap, and throws the perfect touchdown pass to another offensive lineman.
Nice.
So we had an offensive lineman to offensive lineman pass for a touchdown.
Don't see that often.
No, the Hog Mollies don't get that kind of love most of the time. And then one thing that I love, and it's kind of stupid, but to me it's really cool, is the centipede play that Michigan runs. That formation when they get in a straight line and then they break out to catch the defense off guard.
Yeah.
I told myself that when I get into coaching that I'm going to throw that in the playbook. And then I would say that my third is probably the Big Ben, the fake spike against the Dallas Cowboys, threw it to Antonio Brown for a touchdown in 2016 to put the Pittsburgh Steelers up with about 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Nice. Yeah, those are all good. Kyle, my number 3 is very similar to one you had, or it's the same one actually. 2007 Fiesta Bowl. I think what really kind of caps that off is I can't remember the guy's name who scored the touchdown, but he ends up proposing to his girlfriend on the sideline. I mean, it was just like this whole like theatrical, like it's something you'd see in a movie. The Cinderella story. They beat mighty Oklahoma. They went on a trick play. Then he immediately goes off and proposes to his girlfriend. I think that was obviously one of the coolest things. I don't know that you could consider my next one a trick play, but it was more of just like an unbelievable play, and they had to have practiced this at some point in time. And it's because it's called the play. I'm talking about 1982, Cal and Stanford, who everybody knows the band is on the field. The band is on the field. And they lateral it back like 4 or 5 different times, and Cal ends up scoring and winning the game there. So that was my number 2. And my number 1 trick play of all time, taking you back to 1993, the divisional round of the playoffs between the Chicago Cubs, your Cubbies, Kyle, and the New York Mets. Henry Rowan-Gardner comes in the game in the top of the 9th inning, and the guy, he battles adversity. He slips down, he falls, he hurts himself a little bit, and he figures out, how am I going to get out of this game? And he pulls the whole hidden ball trick and gives it to the first baseman to get the first out, which leads the Cubs to get all 3 outs, where he sinks the floater going in for the final out. The Cubbies win. They go to the World Series, and I think they won the World Series because at the end, he puts his arm up and he's got the World Series ring on it. So you got to go with the Rookie of the Year in 93 as the number 1 trick play. Kyle, I can't believe you didn't bring that one up, man.
Come on, man. It's a movie.
Hey, have you seen anybody else do it as good as that?
No, I have not.
Okay. Yep. There we go. Yep. So there we go. There's our trick plays, kind of going back again to April Fools. Matt, at some point in time, we're going to have you come on here and tell us all your April Fools jokes that you've done over the past couple of years, because I don't think Kyle and I have them, but it seems like you've got a lot of stuff up your sleeve.
I'm quite the jokester. I've got both my neighbors pretty good, and we got my brother-in-law. Yep. So I've got lots of stories.
There you go. Well, it sounds like that's a pretty rewarding moment for you there, Matt. Is any way you can find out a way to trick people. And one topic you wanted to talk about this week is, again, we don't have a whole lot of sports going on, is the most rewarding moments you've had as a dad. Again, this is a podcast not only about sports, but it's about us as dads. So, Matt, I'm going to pitch it to you first. What are some of the most rewarding moments you've had so far in your daughter's young life?
Man, I would say this is kind of sentimental. It goes to sports and being a dad, but it was on the night my daughter was born. We watched our first ever NCAA championship game. That was I can't remember who played in the game last year. I think it was Virginia, and I can't remember who they even played.
Oh, yeah, man, that you caught me off guard there. Virginia played. Yeah.
I watched that, and then I laid on the couch at the hospital with my daughter, and we watched Dirk Nowitzki play his last game in the NBA ever. And I will not lie, I did shed a tear that I was able to hold her for that, because I did not think that would be possible, but it was for sure on my mind. And then as my daughter's growing up, she's starting to do more things. And today, or I guess it was actually yesterday, she started to give us sugars. So, well, we can hold her and we tell her to give us sugars, or she'll give a kiss to her dolls that she plays with and all her toys, and she loves to do that. So, and after she does it, she looks at us and smiles. So, it's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool moment.
It's a big moment for us now when our daughters give us sugars. In about 15 years, it'll be our worst nightmare when they're giving out the sugar.
Yeah, there won't be none of that in my house. I have a gun, and it will get pointed at somebody.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Kyle, what about you? What are some of the top moments for you with your kids?
Well, I think, anytime my kid, I got 3 kids, and the birth of all 3, very rewarding. But mine doesn't have a whole lot to do with sports. It's just, I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old boy, and they get out in the backyard, and they're rough and they tumble, and they're tough, just tough little boys playing like boys. My 5-year-old, just this week, I got a tree out back that he likes to climb, and he came in from playing, fell out of the tree. It looks like he took a stick or a limb or something to the face and had a small little cut on his face, but it been bleeding. He kind of smeared some blood on his face and didn't seem to care in the least. Didn't come running in crying, just, his mama had to ask him, "What'd you do?" He was like, "I fell out of the tree. I hit my face." And that's rewarding. Like, he's growing up to be, a tough boy, and hopefully that translates into a tough, strong man. And that's very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, I mean, we could all kind of go back to days of birth and certain milestones that they hit. And I think we're all very, very proud of those moments. I would have to say the first time my daughter said, "Go Big Blue," was definitely one of my proudest moments. The other, actually just a couple of days ago, my son had on his UK jammies. I had, I think, on a sweatshirt, and my wife had on a UK sweatshirt. My daughter's like, "Where's my Go Big Blue? Why can't I wear Go Big Blue? Can we all wear Go Big Blue?" And it's just, it's really cool to see your kids kind of pick up your fanhood like that and to really kind of go with it. So that's definitely a proud moment. Our son has really started to pick up some stuff. He's 15 months old, and he's really started to pick up some stuff in terms of like a few words here and there. He climbs on everything. So Kyle, he's going to be just like your kids, where he's bumping and climbing and scratching and clawing and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, it's rewarding to see the growth process. And since we've been quarantined, almost every single night now, we come into this room that I'm in. It's my office / a kids playroom / a bonus room. And we've got a little basketball goal just right over here with a little Nerf basketball. And my daughter has started shooting shots every night. And she shoots probably 20 to 30 shots, and now she's starting to make a few. And so that's also a very rewarding moment where she's like, "Nope, Dad, I got to make my shot before I go to bed." It's pretty cool. All right, guys, we're going to transition to –
Mike, before we transition – I'm all about having tough little boys, and I'm glad your little boy's growing up to be tough. I hope that all three of them, when they grow up, they don't have a best friend that hits them in the back with a 2x4. If you,
Yeah, man, you must have had a terrible friend.
I must have had an awful best friend growing
Man,
up.
yeah, somebody that actually swings on you with a 2x4 after just trying to play a fun little game of two-hand touch football that turned into really rough. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know how that would have happened.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And if Dad is gonna be giving Hayden or your son haircuts, he's also gonna have to be tough too. Because
Hey,
Hey, that picture was awesome.
at least his name's not Sue. It could be a lot worse. Nothing against my wife's Sue name is Sue, but as you know, the boy named Sue, song by Johnny Cash. But hey, that boy looks good. He's got a shaved head just like Dad. I think it works really well for him, and it's already growing out a little bit. Thank you very much for my wife right now, who's I think watching on Facebook Live is reliving that moment. So thank you, I appreciate that.
all she has to do is just take a look at him, and she's gonna relive that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of awesome bald men, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, even though he's got the little blonde, bald-ish thing going on. We're talking wrestling here, professional wrestling, and the one sporting event that is still happening, Kyle, is WrestleMania, and they turned it into a no fans access, a free WWE Network event, and a 2-day event. So catch us up to speed on what's going on with WWE and WrestleMania. It's supposed to be the biggest show on the planet, and there's nobody there.
Yeah, so I actually have it on right now, and I don't really understand what's happening. This one's I'll get there. So they're worried about coronavirus, and they have to keep a certain number of people around, but they can't have too many people based on CDC guidelines and all that. So they've turned it into a 2-night ordeal, and they are and they split the card. And so last night, there wasn't a whole lot that happened until the end of the show last night. You saw a women's tag title change with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross beating the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane, which I'm sure everybody was like dying to know that one. Elias Corbin, who apparently is just the guy to get beat by everybody now. Becky Lynch defeated Shayna Baszler, which I thought was a little bit of a shock considering how strong they had booked Shayna coming into the show. Sami Zayn defeated Daniel Bryan. Should have been the show stealer with how good those two guys are in the ring, but they booked it to make Sami Zayn just look like I'll clean this one up too, just a chicken heel. And he ran from Daniel for most of the match. There was some outside interference, all that. If he had just put the two guys in the ring and said, hey, go steal the show, I think you have a much better match. Probably the match of the show so far, and I'm counting tonight as well. John Morrison by himself defeated Jimmy Uso by himself and Kofi Kingston by himself in a triple threat ladder match to retain the SmackDown tag team titles, which makes zero sense that you would have individuals. But because of coronavirus and because people weren't able to travel or couldn't make the show or whatever, so Miz and Morrison retained the SmackDown tag titles. Kevin Owens defeated Seth Rollins in their long-awaited grudge match. So here's the big one. Here's the one that you're going to care about, Mike. In a very quick match, Braun Strowman, who I'm sure you don't know who he is, dude's like a former strongman, like did the strongest man in the world competition.
Okay,
things.
yeah.
6'8", like 400 pounds and solid, right? Just a monster. He, in a quick match, defeats a guy you may have heard of named Bill Goldberg.
What?
For the Universal title.
Goldberg's already lost the belt?
Goldberg already lost the belt.
Oh, man. That was his reign back in 99 in WCW. I mean, come on.
Braun Strowman wouldn't have beat Goldberg back in 99.
No, nobody did.
And then the last match last night was The Undertaker, the guy who debuted in 1990 at Survivor Series, the guy who had been wrestling since the mid-'80s. He comes back for one night.
Of course he does. He's the dead man.
Of course.
He just keeps going on.
Comes back and defeats AJ Styles in what they called a boneyard match. Now, why they call it that, I don't know, because they used to just call it a buried alive match.
Yeah. I feel like there was a lot of buried alive matches back in the day with like Kane and Undertaker
Oh, yeah.
and those guys. Yeah, absolutely.
We had some good ones. Tonight, we saw Charlotte Flair defeat Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship in a decent match. A guy named Aleister Black defeating Bobby Lashley. Dolph Ziggler losing to Otis. And that was a fun one. You know, wrestling loves their storylines, and this one is Otis is this. He's probably 5'9", 5'10", and weighs 360. And he's a former strongman too. Like he's big and he looks kind of fat, but he's pretty solid. And there's they have the bombshell blonde that is actually interested in the fat guy, but through some weird stuff. Anyways, it's a big love story. Otis ends up getting the best of Dolph Ziggler to blow that feud off. You know how that goes. Edge has made his return after a really scary neck injury.
Of course, he's back.
Almost a 40-minute match with Randy Orton. His first match other than Royal Rumble, first match back. 40 minutes with Randy Orton, and wins in a last man standing match. So, always great to see guys that can come back from injury.
Yeah.
Street Profits defeat Angel Garza and Austin Theory to retain the Raw tag titles, which, that obviously was a great match. And then Bayley retained the SmackDown Women's title over Sasha Banks, Lacey Evans, Naomi, and Tamina. So a pretty good night, I guess. They just finished the John Cena, Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse match, and there was some strange stuff going on. They had a puppet Vince McMahon that looked like he was doing commentary, and with a buzzard. Like the buzzard was the other. Anyways,
nice.
They did like the old intro to the 1980s Saturday Night's Main Event, and had in the middle of the match had Bray Wyatt and John Cena cutting a 1980s style promo. I mean, there was all kind of craziness. I didn't have the sound on, so I don't know exactly what was going on, but man, some of this stuff is insane what they're doing right now.
Yeah, they're just trying to get away with what they can, and kudos to them, for like you said, with the tag team match where they only brought one person. At least they have the creativity to kind of figure that stuff out. Now, Kyle, who did you say was the guy that is kind of now known as the guy that everybody just beats?
King Corbin.
Okay, so he's this generation's version of the Disco Inferno.
I would argue that he's not as entertaining as the Disco Inferno.
Okay, well, that's fair. So, Matt, what I need you to do now is I need you to recap everything Kyle just said about wrestling.
Hey, you wanted to run down to what happened. They got like 80 matches on this thing.
Well, there's one thing that Kyle did not talk about that I will gladly talk about is we have a first-time ever appearance on WrestleMania and a first-time champion.
Okay.
The NFL legend Rob Gronkowski captured the WWE 24/7 championship. He served as the host of the event. He dove onto a pile of WWE superstars and pinned Mojo Rawley and won the 24/7 title.
Nice. So Gronk makes an appearance and gets a belt already, huh?
Yeah, they said he was going to spike the belt, but he didn't want to break it, so he decided against it.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so we all can agree that this WrestleMania, look, they're doing the best that they can. I think most fans will probably appreciate the fact that they're just doing something. It's definitely not going to go down as one of the best WrestleMania of all time, or not going to have those moments. So, Matt, I'll pitch it for you. Our next topic we're getting into is top 5 WrestleMania moments. And this is just according to you. This is not pulling up some lists and going back and say, oh, well, this was technically the best. What are your top 5 WrestleMania moments of all time, Matt?
I would probably say that the number 5 would be Stone Cold, The Rock, and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 30 during their intro. That was pretty epic. And then the Hart brothers, they fought at WrestleMania 10. Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, the late Owen Hart. God rest his soul.
That's right.
And then The Rock versus Stone Cold. And then Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels, the I'm Sorry match, the ever famous I'm Sorry match, before Shawn Michaels gave him Sweet Chin music and sent him up Space Mountain.
That's right.
And then Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, and they had Tyson there to officiate. I thought that was a pretty great one too. That's my number one top moment for WrestleMania.
All right. So my top five, number five for me, I remember, obviously I don't think I was alive, but I was not actively involved in much of anything at this point in time. But number five, WrestleMania 5, it was kind of built up as the mega powers exploded, as the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. They had been buddies. They had been, just wrecking havoc on the WWF at that time. And they finally kind of butted heads. I think it was all over Miss Elizabeth, which is hilarious. Or so they say. And they exploded and fought each other. And even though the Macho Man is my guy, he ended up losing. He was the heel, if you will, in that match, and ended up losing to Hogan. But that was just a great moment. I've watched that so many times on old VHS tapes. Number 4 for me, WrestleMania 17. It was the TLC number 2 between the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys. Anytime you get the Hardy Boys in a match involving ladders and the Dudleys in a match involving tables, it's going to be awesome. And that one took the tables, ladders, and chairs to the next level with people getting speared off of ladders. And, it was just unbelievable. My number 3 is the WrestleMania 12 Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, the Iron Man match. They went 60 minutes and ended up having to go overtime. Shawn Michaels ended up getting the win, getting one pin and the win, winning his first ever WWF championship. It was just a really cool moment. And those two guys could be the two best wrestlers of all time, and seeing them in that match was just awesome. Number 2 for me is Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18, the Icon versus Icon. The wrestling itself was probably, I don't even remember it. It was probably terrible, but just having those two guys in a ring together, the two probably biggest names in the history of wrestling, the most marketable people in the history of the sport. Vince McMahon was just counting the dollars during that match because it brought in so many eyeballs and so much money. And then the number 1 might be a little bit of a shocker to you, but it's one of my favorite matches of all time. WrestleMania 10. Matt, you just talked about 10 with Owen and Bret Hart, but one of the matches right before that was Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon in the first ever ladder match, and they fought for the unified Intercontinental title. They both had a version of the Intercontinental title, so there were 2 belts hanging up, and it was back and forth and back and forth. I think Razor Ramon ended up winning. But it was an unbelievable match, and it was the first ever ladder match. So that's my number 1. Kyle, I'm interested to hear your top 5 WrestleMania moments of all time.
Yeah, so number 5, I'm going to cheat a little bit.
It's all right. We welcome it. It's okay. Yeah.
It's not a moment. I'll be the heel and I'll cheat. It's not a moment. It's actually a set of 2 matches, but you kind of have to put them together. So you had WrestleMania 25 and 26, and Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, and Michaels is out to destroy the streak. And he doesn't do it in WrestleMania 25, and that was one of, if not the best visual matches ever, because Shawn Michaels, those that follow it a little bit, he was into drugs and all kind of stuff. In his first run, he gets hurt. While he's hurt and he's out for, 4 or 5 years, he meets his wife and they get married, and he finds religion and finds God and becomes a Christian, and he comes back a completely different guy than what he left. And some of the
But he was still a sexy boy.
He was still the sexy boy. He was still the heartbreak kid. But he played it completely differently. So at 25, Shawn Michaels comes out of the ceiling wearing all white with this bright light on him. It looks like an angel kind of descending down to the ramp and coming out. And then the Undertaker comes out, and he comes up from the stage with the fire around him. It looks like he's coming out of hell. So you got this heaven and hell, angel, demon dichotomy there that was really, really cool in 25. And then 26, 2 years after Shawn Michaels, I'm sorry, I love you kick, Flair has to retire. Shawn Michaels puts his career on the line. Undertaker beats him. 2 of the best matches WrestleMania has ever seen. A lot of people would say 5 stars. Pretty much everybody says it's close if it's not. So that's number 5 for me. Number 4 happened at WrestleMania 30. So 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And a guy named Daniel Bryan, who was, the fans' pick, but he definitely didn't look like Vince McMahon's type. Starts with the Yes Movement, Vince McMahon wanted Batista to come back, and Batista had been making movies and was a Hollywood star, so why not bring him back, let him win the Rumble, let him go on, win the title at WrestleMania, and you get all kind of news and press and stuff. But all of a sudden, the Yes Movement takes off, and Daniel Bryan's culmination there at WrestleMania 30, he gets to hold both belts up because they had unified. I mean, it was great. What's bad is he ended up having to give those belts up because he got hurt. And I don't think he ever actually defended them once. So that was 5 and 4. Number three happened at WrestleMania 13, and it's a really, really big match because Stone Cold Steve Austin comes in at 13. He is a heel. Bret Hart is a face, and that is the way they were being portrayed. But the crowd was changing. It was getting younger. It was that teenage and early 20-year-old males, and they were looking for, anti-heroes. Stone Cold fit the bill. They were getting behind him, and they did a double turn in that match, which was beautiful. Bret became the bad guy. Steve Austin became the good guy. And that night is when the Attitude Era is born, which took wrestling to the heights that it had never seen before and has not seen since. The second one, again, back to WrestleMania 30, Brock Lesnar defeating The Undertaker for the first time.
The streak is over.
Ending the streak at 21-0. He became 21-1 that night. And just the reaction from the crowd is fantastic. If you hadn't seen it, YouTube it. Skip to the end of the match if you have to, but just watch the reaction of the crowd. Everybody is stunned.
He conquered the
And
street.
it's great story.